Well, 3 hours after making that Bradley Beal video, where I pretty much said that Bradley Beal and the Phoenix Suns just doesn't make sense, Beal gets traded to the Suns, and it's just such a surprising and interesting move because, like, if you look at both sides, honestly, it seems like a lose-lose trade, which for a star like Bradley Beal doesn't really happen that much. And so, if you haven't seen the deal, it's of course Bradley Beal for Chris Paul, Andrew Shamet, a couple second-round picks, and a couple pick swaps. And starting with the Suns first, I mean, first of all, just looking at the trade itself, it's not a bad package, of course. Chris Paul was already gone. He was expected to be waived, so they were able to get value from him, which is even better. Andrew Shamet is a decent shooter, but like he's replaceable, of course. And then you already traded all your picks in the Kevin Durant trade, so like if you want to go all in, it's fine if you trade some of these picks, but like for Bradley Beal, I don't really know if that's the best option. Personally, I would have rather traded like Chris Paul to like a rebounding team that way you can clear salary, maybe get like a decent player that can help contribute, not a star that doesn't really fit on this team that's making $50 million. Remember, Bradley Beal's on the second biggest contract in the league, and you pair that up with Kevin Durant, who's also making like 46 million. DeAndre Ayton's on a max, Devin Booker's on a max, and will probably in a couple years get the super max. Like, this team is gonna be so locked into this team, and like they have, I'm pretty sure it's like $160 million total for these four players. And it's not like you have like a Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Steph Curry combo where they all seamlessly fit together. It's three players, KD, Booker, and Bradley Beal, that are pretty much similar, play similar games, both want to go in the mid-range, all decent, decent above average three-point shooters, don't really drive into the basket. And of course, their shot creation is incredible, but like having that many shot creators, is that really necessary? So of course, like, it's just, like I said, an excessive amount of shot creation. Like, it doesn't address the problems they had and that we all saw in this playoff run. I mean, against Denver, they pretty much got steamrolled. Denver was just a better team. You had Booker and KD both going off, especially Booker. Booker averaged like 35 on crazy splits in that series. But like, just by the time it was game 5 and game 6, they just looked gassed. They were leading the whole playoffs in minutes per game, and they just had no help. Chris Paul went out. DeAndre Ayton was pretty much doing nothing. The role players just couldn't step up because they're not really the best role players, because everything is around those two guys. And now you add Bradley Beal, which of course the shot creation will be really good. And I think that Bradley Beal, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are hoping he can be like that Ray Allen in the Big Three Celtics, where he can be that shooter off ball. But like, I mean, Bradley Beal, a lot of people coming into the draft said he would be a good 3-point shooter, and he is, I would say, a good 3-point shooter. But like recently, his 3-point percentage, if you look at it, it's like 35% on like 5 attempts. And I do think that a large majority of the reason for that is that he's taking like heavily contested threes. But now if he's taking more like spot up threes, I think he can shoot really well in that. But like, still, like, these guys, KD, Booker, and Beal, all like to go in the mid-range, and if they all have that same spot, it's just a redundant skill set that really isn't there. And of course, the defense, I mean, KD's a decent defender, Booker's a decent defender, Beal's like a decent defender, but like no one to stop like a Kawhi Leonard, a LeBron James, a Nikola Jokic, and all these guys in the Western Conference, all the stars in the Western Conference, they just don't really match up. Maybe they can re-sign like, I don't know, Torrey Craig if they have the cap space, Josh Okogie, but like you can't rely on those guys to give you productive minutes, especially when everyone else in this team is gonna have minimum contracts. And like, there's also like no main facilitator. I think that Beal averaged like 6 assists around that for a couple seasons. Booker was a really good passer in this playoffs. KD's of course an underrated passer, but like they don't have that main facilitator like that Chris Paul. And then like another thing is that they all have injury concerns. I mean, KD, for the last like 3 seasons, he of course had that Achilles tear. He always has those random moments where someone lands on his knee and he's out for a month. And then Booker, he has hamstring problems, which we saw this season. And then Beal, I mean, he has pretty much faced a lot of minor injuries, and he hasn't played around that 7-game threshold in a couple seasons now. And like, it's just having all those guys be potential injury candidates. like, of course, maybe if one of them are out, you still have the other two, but like we saw like in Brooklyn, where if you can't keep them together, they're not going to be as lethal, and there's going to be a lot of problems, especially that they don't have depth on this team. Like, this depth is just pretty much non-existent unless they can trade like Aiden. I don't know if they're going to do that, but like they're just locked into this team. And I don't know, I do think that they're technically, I would say, a better team than they were before this, but like the fit isn't seamless. It's a really risky move, and if this works out, great, but like I think there's just such a high percentage that this trade just doesn't work out. And then going over to the Wizards side, I mean, man, for your franchise player, you get an aging Chris Paul, a decent shooter Landry Shamet, and you don't even get a first round pick, a guy that you gave the Supermax to, the guy who wanted to lead your whole franchise. You don't even get a first round pick for. Like, if you traded Bradley Beal like 2 years ago when he was making the All-Star team, I think he was an All-NBA player. I'm not sure about that, but like you could have got a Donovan Mitchell S package where you can get like multiple first round picks, a decent young player from like the Knicks. Like, I'm sure they'd be willing to give it up for the package for Bradley Beal. But now that you wasting his prime, pretty much Beal's getting older. Like, now you get this trade package, which is just not even getting a first round pick. Landry Shamet really isn't even a young player anymore. Like, the future of this team is pretty much non-existent. I don't know if they're gonna keep Porzingis. I don't know if they're gonna keep Kuzma. Maybe they'll get lucky with their draft picks, but like they haven't drafted at all. Like, really, they're just not good. Denny Avdiva, not, he's a decent player. Rui Hachimura wasn't good for them. Johnny Davis didn't get minutes until like the last 10 games of the season. Like, they just put themselves in this hole. They of course gave Bradley Beal that no trade clause and the Supermax. And unfortunately, like, the people running the front office right now aren't the same people that gave Beal the contract, but like having to work with that and getting this package in return, like, it's just concerning because like they just don't have any franchise player. Like, maybe Johnny Davis can magically be really good. Maybe they draft someone with whatever pick they have. I think it's like the 8th to like 12 range, but like just mishandling the situation. I mean, at least they have all their picks at least, but like it's gonna be a rough time in Washington, I would say, for the next couple of years. They're gonna be pretty bad. Or the thing is that they were in like these last 3 years, like in this mediocre phase where like they were not good enough to make the playoffs, not even good enough to make the play-in, but like not bad enough to get one of the worst picks in the draft. And now that they fully committed to this rebuild, maybe they can get something better. Now, like I said, they could have done this 3 years ago and got more picks for Beal, have just pretty much had that direction and get a couple of those top lottery picks. Like, if they could have got like an Amen Thompson or like a Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson in this draft to build around, that would have been crucial. And like, it just wasn't there. The management wasn't there, and hopefully they can start to like fully commit to this rebuild, maybe sign a couple players in free agency. Not that they have the Beal contract off the books. They'll probably trade Chris Paul. His value, of course, isn't very high, but they can get like some decent assets for him. That wouldn't be bad. But like, just this Wizards team, just a lose-lose trade, honestly, for both sides. Yes, the Suns get an upgrade in Beal, but like the fit isn't there. And the Wizards, I mean, they got nothing for their franchise player, the guy that they've gave the Supermax to. So I don't know. The Suns made a risky choice, and we'll see how it plays out. So that being said, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all next time.